And we are back with Aaron Haynes, an editor-at-large for the 19th, a news outlet that focuses on policy and women in politics. And back with us, Jason Johnson, a political contributor for The Griot and MSNBC. Thanks to both of you for being in this discussion.
Glad to be here.
Aaron, we looked deeply.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, sure.
You bet. Sure. Aaron, we looked deeply at Harris's record before joining the Senate. I'm curious what you think substantively and politically about her rumored to be on this short list and her work.
Let me say, I mean, these backstories are really important, right? Because it's not up to us. It's not even up to the voters who the next vice presidential pick is going to be on this ticket. It is up to Joe Biden, but we do have a responsibility to really try to inform, the electorate about the woman who could be governing them starting in 2021. And so doing this series, I think, is important. It's certainly something that I've tried to do as I've kind of addressed the beat stakes, right? But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the points that you raised in backstory are true. Because Kamala Harris was the lone Black woman who ran for president, she certainly is somebody whose record has been on full display for people, even though they did not actually get to weigh in on her in the primary. She's somebody that kind of, she would, if she were going to be Joe Biden's running mate, have some introducing to do to a lot of the American people. As you said, she only became a U.S. Senator in 2016 with the most recent election. But I do think, her prosecutor record, to your point, is something that was in the primary this year. And, depending on your perspective, that was either a liability or an asset for her. She certainly tried to tout her record as a progressive, but, other folks, in this particular climate of Black Lives Matter, did not see her record as very progressive at all. And she's not kind of somebody, who we think of now. We think about a Marilyn Mosby, for example, or a Kim Foxx, people who were kind of swept in the Black Lives Matter era as prosecutors who they were help to address some of these systemic issues around policing and criminal justice. She was kind of a pioneer in that vein, but whether folks will receive her as such, should she be on the ticket, is something that I think remains to be seen, but will probably be an issue.
Jason?
Right. Yeah, so it's even more basic than that. Senator Harris already has a brand. She's talented. She's fantastic. She's been an amazing prosecutor when she's been in the Senate. But she is caught in history. And what's happening to her right now with her criminal justice record and Black Lives Matter, it reminds me a lot of what happened in 2016, whether or not you voted for the invasion of Iraq, right? At the time, it seemed like a great idea. When Senator Harris got elected, being a tough, smart on crime prosecutor was the smartest thing to do. She didn't know that everything was going to change the moment that she got into office. And now she faces that challenge. Look, I have written several times in the Griot, I think she's going to end up eventually being the pick for Joe Biden, but she has a huge, those two combined, between Joe Biden and the crime bill and Senator Harris and her criminal justice record, they are going to get hammered by this administration with bad faith attacks. They're going to be hammered in ways that are supposed to suppress the African-American vote, and it'll be her biggest challenge to remind everyone that, look, I was caught up in a system that I fought against, and I'm somebody that you can trust. That's going to be her biggest challenge going forward. And that's also the greatest strength for other people, say Elizabeth Warren or Stacey Abrams, because they don't have that weakness.
I'm curious, Aaron, what you think of, as we showed, the senator in her own words on this, where she makes a slightly more diplomatic, less political version of, I think, what Jason just stripped bare and said straight up, which is, to the extent that these are long-held civil rights substantive issues, which we've been covering them for years, then great, let's get into it. But to the extent that they are Johnny-come-lately attacks on one prosecutor when, like, most of the prosecutors who were Democrats were like this, which included mostly at the time white men, as we showed historically, then she is in essence saying, don't make me the first person that has to sit down for this. That doesn't really make sense. Do you think both substantively and politically that's a decent argument, however raw it's presented, Aaron?
Well, I mean, I think that she does have a point. I mean, certainly that was a point that was raised during the primary. I think, especially among a lot of the Black women voters that I talked to, right? Why were we talking about Senator Harris's record as a prosecutor at that time and not Amy Klobuchar's record? For example, Amy Klobuchar also was a prosecutor prior to her coming to the Senate, and yet her prosecutor record really wasn't at issue when she was on the campaign. The argument to that was that Senator Klobuchar really didn't get that much traction in the primary, and Senator Harris was somebody who was kind of immediately presumed as a frontrunner when she entered the race and got kind of a lot of the baggage of that and very few of the benefits, which was why she was out of the race before the voting ever even got. I mean, I interviewed her, this summer, in the midst of this national reckoning on race, and what she told me was that she was somebody who, and she tried to say this, on the campaign trail, she was somebody who got into law, wanted to be a prosecutor because she was somebody who wanted to change the system from the inside in the spirit of a Thurgood Marshall or a Constance Baker Motley, right? Like somebody who saw the law as a tool to address systemic racism. And while, she was up in the system, she was trying to work within it to make some of those reforms. She acknowledges that she did not get all of that done, acknowledges and do everything, but said that was certainly what she was trying to do. And she has pushed for reforms as a senator in this national reckoning.
And just widening out, Jason, eagle-eyed viewers will see MSNBC also featuring Stacey Abrams tonight on the Reid Report. Stay tuned for that. I think it'll be interesting. This series, we're looking at several people. We happen to have looked at one candidate tonight. But what do you think, Jason, of the other contenders? Who do you see as strong on what Biden himself calls a diverse short list?
Well, obviously you have a lot of people who are pushing for Elizabeth Warren. There are people who still push for Stacey Abrams. But it doesn't look likely that it's going to be anybody other than these top two. And look, I don't think all of those reasons are necessarily effective. I think in the current environment that we're in, America wants radical, substantive change. And I think one of the weaknesses, to be honest, about Senator Harris's argument, hey, I want to work within the system. Well, what have we seen for the last 4 months? Working outside the system has gotten greater changes. Marching in the street is what's gotten, police officers defunded and gotten people fired and gotten reforms happening. So the insider argument doesn't necessarily work. But I don't see this same situation being any better if you pick Val Demings. She was a police officer. You're going to have those same kinds of problems. If he picks Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden is going to face the fact that she doesn't have much of a connection to the African-American community. Stacey Abrams is a fantastic, incredibly talented candidate. There are some people who are going to say, hey, she was denied the opportunity to be governor of Georgia, so we don't necessarily think she's experienced enough. So Harris is in the pacing car right now because I think a lot of the criticisms of the other candidates, they're not going to have time to overcome them.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And to land on a point that Aaron raised in the beginning, voters don't technically have input on this. Joe Biden's own staff has talked about the prospect of it, were he to win, running only one term. You are talking about the future of the Democratic Party. Anything could change, but it is as big a running mate pick as we've probably seen in a generation. Aaron Haynes and Jason Johnson, we're going to continue on Backstory. Appreciate you guys handicapping with us.
Thanks.
You got it.
Thank you.
Anytime.